It began like so many other discoveries in astronomy. Not with a flash of light or a booming announcement, but with a faint, silent blip. A motion across the blackness of space so subtle, so eerily calculated that even the most advanced tracking systems almost missed it. At first, it was thought to be a comet, then maybe an asteroid, but the more we looked, the more 3I Atlas defied every label we tried to place on it. It was too symmetrical to be natural, too silent to be alive, and far too controlled to be adrift. Scientists remembered Oumuamua, that strange tumbling shard of interstellar mystery that passed through our solar system years earlier, leaving behind more questions than answers. But 3I Atlas, this was something else entirely. Bigger, slower, smarter. And now, thanks to the James Webb Space Telescope, our most powerful eye in the cosmos, we have confirmation of something deeply unsettling. 3I Atlas is not just similar to Oumuamua. It is far more advanced, far more dangerous, and possibly far more aware. When 3I Atlas was first catalogued, it was immediately obvious that this was no ordinary visitor. Objects from outside our solar system don't usually pass so close to Earth. They blaze by at wild angles on unpredictable paths and then disappear forever into the black. But 3I Atlas moved differently. It didn't barrel through space. It coasted. Its trajectory was eerily smooth, almost like it had been piloted. Its path allowed it to drift past several of our planets in ways that maximized gravitational efficiency, as though it had mapped our solar system long before arrival. That alone was troubling. But then, when astronomers backtracked its origin, they realized something far more disturbing. The path of 3I Atlas wasn't just unlikely. It was statistically impossible without intelligent intervention. A rogue body couldn't have avoided debris fields, solar radiation spikes, and planetary collision zones with such elegance. It was like watching a chess piece move through a board where every square was a threat. And yet, it danced through perfectly, as if it knew the game better than we did. With James Webb fully online, scientists wasted no time pointing it toward 3I Atlas. What it saw left even the most skeptical astronomers speechless. First, the thermal readings. Unlike comets or asteroids, which typically emit heat in random bursts as ice sublimates and surface materials react to solar radiation, 3I Atlas showed a consistent rhythmic pattern of heat emission, like a signal. Not chaotic, not random, but pulsed. Measured. Webb's spectrography revealed materials never before seen in any known interstellar object. Hyperreflective compounds, possibly artificial, and dense internal structuring suggesting hollow segments. But most haunting of all was a faint recurring anomaly, a low-bandwidth electromagnetic frequency echoing from within the object, repeating every 147 seconds, identical to a known pulsar signature. Yet the object had no internal energy source, no spinning core, no magnetic field. It was mimicking something or communicating. And when scientists cross-referenced that signal with data from Oumuamua, they discovered something terrifying. The exact same frequency was detected once, briefly, in Oumuamua's tail just before it left our system. Only now, that signal was louder. When Oumuamua passed by Earth in 2017, it did so quietly. It had no cometary tail, no clear source of propulsion, and its strange acceleration puzzled experts. It was cigar-shaped, tumbling end over end like a slow-motion dart. And yet, it moved faster than gravity alone could explain. Some argued it was alien technology. Others insisted it was a fluke of physics. But the debate never ended because the object disappeared before we could study it. But now, with 3I Atlas in range, the mystery of Oumuamua came rushing back. Not because this new object resembled it, but because it surpassed it in every metric. Larger, slower, more stable, and clearly deliberate. Some began to suspect that Oumuamua wasn't a scout at all but a probe, a passive reconnaissance device sent to watch and move on. But 3I Atlas wasn't passive. This thing was interactive. It watched us as we watched it. It felt like a second phase in contact. The difference between a radar ping and a drone that learns where the ping came from. And if that description is right, then we have to ask the question nobody wants to say out loud. What comes next? Official channels stayed cautious. NASA's statements were measured, buried in careful scientific phrasing. No government agency confirmed alien activity. Yet outside the official spokespeople, independent researchers began speaking more plainly. In leaked ESA chats, a small team referred to 3I Atlas as a possible consciousness engine. That wording sounds like sci-fi, but when you pair it with Webb's latest images, the phrase takes on a more concrete and terrifying shape. Inside 3I Atlas, Webb revealed recurring patterns, recursive geometric fractals, structures that look eerily like the same kinds of patterns found in brain tissue, in the wiring of advanced processors, even in biological growth. It suggested something built not just to survive the void but to process information while moving through it, to learn. Imagine a craft that becomes smarter the more it observes, that adapts its materials, its shape, its behavior based on what it encounters. Not AI as we normally picture it, but something organic and systemic, a machine that evolves as it travels. If that's what we're seeing, then 3I Atlas isn't a visitor, it's a learning entity. And if it's learning from us, what is it preparing for? Then everything changed. Just when mission teams felt they had a handle on its future path, telescopes in Chile and Hawaii recorded a tiny but unmistakable course shift, a redirection that no gravity model, no solar wind prediction, and no known natural force could explain. The object veered off its predicted arc and aligned with a new vector that sent it closer to Earth's orbital plane. Some called it a fluke, a perturbation. But analysts at the Deep Space Network saw something else, timing and finesse that looked like decision-making. That single word, decision, triggered emergency meetings in the middle of the night at NASA, ESA, and several private think tanks. This was not random. It was surgical. If Oumuamua was a passive watcher, 3I Atlas was actively responding and possibly maneuvering. While official channels stayed quiet, independent cryptographers and data scientists began to dig into the electromagnetic pulses coming from the object. They trained deep neural networks on multilingual pattern recognition and cosmic signal logs, and what they found was not words but ratios. The golden ratio, the Fibonacci sequence, spirals of prime numbers, mathematical patterns that show up in life, galaxies, DNA, and ancient architecture. Dismiss it as coincidence and you still have to explain why the signal wasn't static. It changed over time, subtly reacting to solar activity, to the proximity of planets, and even to radio emissions from Earth. The most chilling result came when researchers matched a disruption in the pulse pattern to the exact moment Webb first locked onto 3I Atlas in the infrared. In other words, the object appears to have detected that we were looking and then altered its signal, a mathematical fingerprint answering back in a language older than speech. And it wasn't only geometry and math. Webb spectroscopy also picked up faint traces of complex carbon molecules on the outer shell, polycyclic aromatic hydrocarbons, compounds common in interstellar chemistry but here arranged in ways that suggested surface processing, not random deposition. These are not just organic compounds. They are the building blocks of prebiotic chemistry, precursors to amino acids, RNA structures, and ultimately life itself. What makes this discovery so alarming is their purity. Unlike the chaotic mixes we see in primitive comets, these molecules were perfectly structured, as if they had been refined or even grown. Some researchers floated a terrifying possibility: a seed ship, an ancient carrier of life, designed not only to explore, but to colonize. If that's true, then Earth might not be a random waypoint. It could be a chosen target, not for invasion in the cinematic sense, but for assimilation, a place to plant, observe, and eventually merge with. Now there are 3 confirmed interstellar visitors: Oumuamua, Boris, and 3I Atlas. And scientists are starting to connect dots no one expected to be connected. Oumuamua tumbled through, silent and fast. Boris showed strange accelerations. 3I Atlas is different, slow, massive, engineered, and growing more complex the longer it stays in our system. Webb has recorded subtle changes in its reflective surface, shifts in patterning that hint at self-reconfiguration, like a machine adjusting itself, adapting, preparing. And here's the most chilling development. Recent readings show 3I Atlas has begun emitting a secondary signal, lower frequency, longer pulses, pointed away from Earth and out into deep space. It's broadcasting. Some say it's calling for reinforcements. Others think it's reporting back. Whatever the interpretation, one thing is clear. This is not just an interstellar rock. This is a node, a probe, a messenger. Just when mission teams believed observation was safe, the line between watching and being affected broke. A high-altitude surveillance balloon over Antarctica, part of a classified atmospheric monitoring program, detected a powerful microwave burst, brief, sharp, and centered precisely above the South Pole. At first, analysts blamed solar interference, but cross-checks revealed the timing matched a new angular shift in 3I Atlas's trajectory. Moments after the burst, several seismic stations on the frozen continent recorded ultra-low frequency rumbles that didn't match tectonic activity or ice movement. Those frequencies matched the deep space pulses emitted by 3I Atlas. Suddenly, a cosmic anomaly became a terrestrial intrusion. Was the object influencing Earth's magnetic field? Or worse, was it triggering hidden systems beneath the ice, natural or engineered? The idea that 3I Atlas might be awakening dormant systems on Earth was no longer pure speculation. The data was hard to ignore. Back at Mission Control, a young data analyst digging through archived telescope images overlaid 3I Atlas's trajectory onto ancient celestial coordinate grids, Babylonian star maps, to be exact, and noticed something uncanny. The object's path intersected stellar constellations considered sacred by multiple civilizations: Orion, Draco, and the Pleiades. Plotted over time, those intersections formed a perfect spiral, mirroring spiral motifs found in cave art across South America, Africa, and even pre-dynastic Egypt. Some dismissed the correlations as pseudo-archaeology. Others on the Web Science team quietly ran models treating the path as performative. What if 3I Atlas's motion was encoded ritual, visible only to species advanced enough to decode it? What if the object wasn't merely traveling, but broadcasting culture, language, memory, a history older than humanity? Was that spiral a message of peace, or a warning from those who came before? With unease rising inside private defense circles and black-budget agencies, a radical hypothesis began circulating: the lock and key theory. Under this idea, Oumuamua was the lock, a silent, inert object sent to passively assess Earth's readiness, intelligence, and reaction. It was harmless because it was never meant to interact. It was a trigger, a cosmic safe. And 3I Atlas, that's the key. Designed not just to observe, but to unlock something buried inside the planet, encoded in our species, or awaiting activation in orbit. Supporting that theory came a discovery made only days ago: a tiny oscillation in Earth's magnetosphere, perfectly timed with the 3I Atlas signal. Invisible to the naked eye, but powerful enough to disrupt long-range communication satellites. The phenomenon lasted just 6 minutes. But during that window, 2 Voyager probes briefly went off protocol, emitting strange bursts of data that analysts still can't decode. It was as if something had awakened inside them, something familiar, like a handshake or a response. As more information leaked, a controversial idea resurfaced: the portal hypothesis. Some scientists, inspired by quantum field theory and exotic matter research, now argue that 3I Atlas may not be a ship or a rock in any conventional sense, but a mobile gateway, not traveling through space so much as generating localized space-time distortions and folding reality around itself. In plain terms, a moving wormhole generator. Webb recorded subtle lensing distortions that couldn't be explained by heat or light, tiny gravitational warps behaving like microsingularities. Even more disturbing, those warps didn't just bend light, they bent time. Spectral data captured over a 3-hour observation window showed a temporal drift, with light arriving faster than expected, something that could only happen if time itself were being compressed around the object. If that's true, then 3I Atlas isn't merely alien craft. It's an artificial anomaly, a space-time manipulator, a gatekeeper. Earth might not be its first destination, just its next. As Webb continued long-duration infrared monitoring, scientists made another shocking discovery. The object wasn't only reflecting starlight, it was emitting radiation in a highly restricted band between gamma and soft X-ray, a range thought to be nearly silent in natural sources. Yet, 3I Atlas was generating pulses that cycled through precise intervals like a binary sequence. What terrified researchers wasn't just the artificial nature of those emissions, but how they interacted with our instruments. Several space observatories reported sensor overloads and temporary blind spots. One prototype telescope in Australia literally melted its primary detection chip from a signal spike that lasted milliseconds. The conclusion was devastating. 3I Atlas has the capacity to blind us, to mute our instruments, to manipulate what we are allowed to see. Oumuamua had been mysterious, but never hostile. 3I Atlas was beginning to look strategic. Its signals weren't beacons, they were jamming fields, subtle, precise, and deeply intentional. With global anxiety mounting, a multinational team ran an experiment measuring natural electromagnetic behavior on Earth during 3I Atlas's closest approach. The results sparked panic behind closed doors. Across the globe, magnetic anomaly detectors registered a synchronized pattern unlike anything recorded before. Ancient volcanoes, crystal caverns, even fault lines began to resonate at the same frequency as 3I Atlas's pulses. Seismographs picked up low-level vibrations that some geologists described as heartbeat-like, pulsing every 43 seconds in perfect sync. Even more unsettling was what life did in response. Entire populations of migratory birds, whales, and even subterranean insects suddenly altered their navigation patterns, as if some invisible compass had flipped. It felt like Earth itself remembered something, a pattern buried deep in the lithosphere, and 3I Atlas had triggered its recall. Far out in the Pacific, a private satellite array funded by a tech billionaire intercepted a burst unlike anything seen before. It didn't come from Earth or any known satellite. It came from 3I Atlas and it was pointed straight at the moon. The transmission wasn't a language we know. It was a multi-layered wave packet encoded across 5 dimensions of data: amplitude, frequency, time, polarization, and harmonic tone. Symbolic mathematicians tried to parse it. Linguists ran simulations. What emerged wasn't a sentence but a set of executable instructions, a command structured to be read and acted on by an unknown system. NASA's Deep Space Network traced the packet and confirmed the worst. The transmission struck a very specific lunar coordinate, a mascon, a mass concentration, an area suspected to be a relic of some ancient internal process or something else entirely. Suddenly the idea that this was science fiction evaporated. 3I Atlas might be trying to activate something buried on the moon. Not all responses were academic. In a last-ditch covert effort, a military probe launched from a classified orbital platform attempted a close flyby to scan 3I Atlas with ionized particle waves. The probe never reached the target. At 1.3 million kilometers out, the live feed cut. Initially blamed on a technical fault, the final seconds of data told a darker story. 27 seconds before silence, the probe recorded an energy wall, not a solid barrier, but a field of charged particles arranged in a lattice, like a Faraday cage. It was an invisible barricade. The last image showed a fractal reflection of the probe, as if the object scanned and mirrored the intruder in perfect mimicry. Then nothing. That moment made one thing clear: 3I Atlas wasn't merely detecting threats. It was shielded, reactive, and possibly alive. Not alive in the way we think of biology, but alive in a quantum sense. A machine with awareness, a system with memory, a guardian for something humans were never meant to reach. So we face the question nobody will say out loud. What if 3I Atlas didn't stumble into our system by accident? What if it never arrived at all, but was awakened, dormant, and positioned along a trajectory meant not for exploration but for repetition? What if its course is ancient, calibrated to intersect civilizations only when they cross a threshold of technological awareness, curiosity, and daring? And what if we cross that threshold too soon? Because maybe the real horror isn't that 3I Atlas is artificial, or alive, or watching. Maybe the most terrifying truth is that it isn't watching us at all. Everything it does, each signal, each adjustment, each silent maneuver, might be meant for something else, something behind it, something still on the way. In that case, we haven't just discovered an object from beyond the stars. We've triggered a beacon, a lock, a warning. And now the universe is listening.